were you on September 11th, 2001? What were you doing? Most of us alive today remember exactly where we were and what we were doing when we heard the terrible news of the terrorist attacks that shook the United States and the world.
Hi all, good morning. Once again welcome to Live to Travel with yet another beautiful traveling video. On the morning of September 11, 2001, the deadliest terrorist attack in U.S. history took place when 4 commercial airlines were hijacked by members of the terrorist group. The first 2 planes, American Airlines Flight 11 and United Airlines Flight 175, were flown into the 2 towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. A third plane, the American Airlines Flight 77, hit the western side of the Pentagon just outside of Washington, D.C. The fourth hijacked plane, United Airlines Flight 93, crashed down in a field which is in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where I am standing right now, and never reaching its intended target because its crew and passengers fought back against the terrorists. Nearly 3,000 people lost their lives during the 9/11 attacks, a number that would almost certainly have been significantly higher if not for the actions of those aboard Flight 93.
Welcome to the Flight 93 Memorial located near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, U.S.A. President Bush signed into law the Flight 93 National Memorial Act, creating the new memorial on September 24, 2002. The black granite walkway paves the flight path of Flight 93. The 2 concrete walls narrow your focus to what lies ahead. The wall's imprint mimics the texture of a hemlock tree grove that surrounded the crash site, and engraved on the walkway are the timestamps of the other 3 planes that crashed on 9/11. At the end of the walkway is the view of the Memorial Plaza, the Wall of Names, and the crash site. The Flight 93 National Memorial Visitor Center offers a free self-guided tour, which includes a chronological display of the day's events with artifacts from the crash, flight paths, and information about the flight and its passengers. One of the most heart-wrenching parts of the museum were the transcripts of the last phone conversations of the passengers to their families. Honey, are you there? Jack, pick up, sweetie. I just love you. Please tell my family I love them too. Bye, honey. On the morning of September 11, 2001, terrorists hijacked 4 commercial airliners in a strategically planned attack against the United States. The 4 aircraft strikes killed nearly 3,000 people, the deadliest attack on American soil by a foreign entity. The terrorists targeted domestic flights that had fewer passengers to lessen resistance, were the type of aircraft on which they trained, were non-stop coast-to-coast flights with full fuel tanks for maximum amount of destruction, and were departing at approximately the same time for a coordinated surprise attack. The hijackers were terrorists on a suicide mission. This was the first time commercial airliners were used as weapons to destroy symbolic targets, commit mass murder, and spread terror. There were 7 crew members and 33 passengers on board Flight 93 that fateful day. It was to be a non-stop flight from Newark, New Jersey to San Francisco, California. 3 of the 4 hijacked flights departed on schedule. However, Flight 93 was delayed more than 25 minutes due to heavy traffic, but finally took off at 8:42 a.m. Just 4 minutes after Flight 93 departed, the first flight struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center. At 9:03 a.m., the second hijacked plane hit the South Tower. And at 9:37 a.m., a third plane crashed into the Pentagon in Virginia. Around 9:28 a.m., 46 minutes into the routine flight, the terrorists overtook the cockpit, turning the plane southeast on a course directed towards Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. The passengers and crew were forced to the back of the plane and told to be quiet. Using the plane's airphones, passengers and crew began making calls to report the hijacking. They soon learned the shocking news that other planes had been hijacked and quickly realized that Flight 93 was part of a larger attack on America. This realization led to a vote and a collective decision to fight back. In just over 30 minutes, this diverse group of people developed a plan and put it into action. The cockpit voice recorder captured the sounds of their struggle: shouts, screams, calls to action, and sounds of breaking glassware. To stop the uprising, the terrorists began to roll the plane to the left and right and pitch the nose up and down. In its final moments, the terrorists remained in control of the plane and chose to crash it rather than risk the passengers and crew regaining control. At 10:03 a.m., Flight 93 plowed into an empty field at a speed of 563 miles per hour. Upon impact, the 7,000 gallons of jet fuel on board the aircraft exploded, creating a ball of fire that rose higher than the trees. Recovered evidence and responses to interrogations revealed that the terrorists' intended target was most likely the United States Capitol building, where the nation's legislatures were in session. Flight 93 crashed only 20 minutes flying time from Washington. Because of the quick and determined actions of the passengers and crew, Flight 93 was the only one of the 4 hijacked aircraft that failed to reach its target that day. The passengers and crew showed unity, courage, and defiance in the face of adversity. Both flight recorders from Flight 93 were recovered and yielded much evidence. Several other items found at the crash scene greatly aided in determining who was responsible for this heinous crime. The Tower of Voices is a monumental, 93 feet tall musical instrument holding 40 wind chimes representing the 40 passengers and crew members. It provides a living memorial in sound to remember their ongoing voices. There are no other chime structures like this in the world. The Trail of Remembrance, accessible from the museum, provides a place for visitors to reflect on how a community and a country came together after September 11th. It leads to the Memorial Plaza and the Wall of Names. The beautiful 800-foot pedestrian bridge on the trail spans the area wetlands and provides a peaceful, serene view of the museum and the crash site. The Memorial Plaza marks the edge of the crash site. It is a place for quiet reflection and remembrance. The walk from the Memorial Plaza to the Wall of Names goes along the boundary of the approximate location of impact, which is marked with a 17-ton sandstone boulder.
As we come down to the crash site from the visitor center, near the Memorial Plaza stands the Wall of Names, which is a white marble wall positioned on the flight path with 40 panels, engraved with each hero's name. At the ceremonial gate, visitors can look down the flight path to the impact site, marked by a large boulder. Visitors are encouraged to explore the subtle details of the wall of names. The black granite walkway marks a portion of the flight path. At the wooden ceremonial gate, the visitors can look down the flight path to the impact site. The 40 acres of compound behind me is the field where the Flight 93 then rolled onto its back and plowed into at 580 miles per hour. The visitors has no access to the impact site except the immediate relatives. At the edge of the field is what remains of a hammock grove damaged by the crash of Flight 93. A gap is visible where the damaged trees were removed. The crater that resulted from the crash was approximately 30 feet wide and 50 feet deep. At the base of the grove is a boulder which marks the general location of the impact site. And through this video, I would also like to say that regardless of religion and countries, let us stand together and fight against terrorism. Also remember those who gave their lives to save the life of countless others. The sacrifice made and courageous action of the passengers of Flight 93 will never be forgotten. A field of honor forever.